Previously, we witnessed a simple maid make a choice that would change her life forever, honoring a billionaire's unexpected and mysterious wish. But what happened next shocked everyone. In Part 2, we dive deeper into the secrets he left behind, the sacrifices she must now make, and the powerful truth waiting to be uncovered. If you thought Part 1 was emotional, get ready. This is where the story truly begins. Before we descend deeper into the story, hit like and subscribe. Jessica forced a smile. It was a scary, tight smile. Sarah, darling, look. Things got heated at the cemetery. Emotions were high. We were grieving. You weren't grieving, Sarah said calmly. You were worried about the money. Mark stepped forward. Look, let's cut the act. You're a maid. You know how to clean toilets, not how to run a billion-dollar empire. You're going to crash this company in a week. The stock market will eat you alive. Mark is right, Jessica said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. We have a proposal. You sign the company over to us. In exchange, we will give you $5 million cash. You can take your sick brother and go live on an island somewhere. You'll never have to work again. It's a win-win. You get money, we get our legacy back. Sarah looked at them. $5 million. It was more money than she could ever imagine. She could cure Timmy. She could leave this dangerous life. But then she remembered Arthur's hand squeezing hers. I want to go to God as the fisherman who was happy. He trusted her. He didn't trust his children. If she gave him the company, she would be betraying Arthur just like they did. Sarah stood up. No. The smile vanished from Jessica's face. Excuse me? I said no, Sarah said firmly. Arthur didn't leave the company to you because he knew you would sell it or destroy it. He left it to me because he knew I would protect his workers and his legacy. I'm not selling. Not for $5 million. Not for $5 billion. Mark slammed his hand on the desk. You stupid girl. You have no idea what you're doing. Victor Volkov is going to come for you. He will kill you. Is that a threat? Sarah asked. It's a promise. Jessica screamed. You think you won? You just dug your own grave. Get out, Sarah said, pointing to the door. Get out of my house. This isn't over. Jessica shrieked as Mark dragged her away. You'll regret this, Sarah. You'll wish you were dead. When they were gone, Sarah sank back into the chair. She was shaking. She felt strong for standing up to them, but Mark's words echoed in her head. Victor Volkov. The sun went down and the mansion became dark and shadowy. Mr. Henderson had left hours ago, saying he had to file the legal paperwork to make everything official. Sarah was alone with the staff and Timmy. She decided to look through Arthur's desk drawers. If she was going to run this company, she needed to understand it. She found files, bank statements, and old letters. Then she found a false bottom in the middle drawer. She pried it open with a letter opener. Inside was a black notebook. She opened it. It was Arthur's handwriting, but it was messy, scrawled in panic. August 12th, Victor contacted me again. He threatened Mark. Mark is weak. I think Mark is listening to him. September 4th, Jessica asked about my tea. She never asks about my tea. I think she tampered with my medicine. I feel dizzy. October 1st, I cannot trust anyone, not even Henderson. He has been making calls to Russia. If I die, it wasn't natural. Sarah gasped. She dropped the notebook. Not even Henderson. The lawyer. The man who drove her here. The man who told her to run. The man who knew exactly where she was. Arthur suspected Henderson was working with the enemy. Panic surged through Sarah's body. She had to get out. She had to get Timmy and leave right now. This house wasn't a castle. It was a trap. She jumped up from the desk and ran toward the door. But before she could reach the handle, the room suddenly flooded with red and blue flashing lights from a window. Sirens wailed outside. Loud, deafening sirens. Sarah ran to the window. The driveway was filled with police cars. Dozens of them. A loudspeaker boomed. Sarah Mills. Come out with your hands up. The house is surrounded. Sarah's heart stopped. Why were the police here? The office door burst open. It wasn't the police. It was Mr. Higgins, the butler. He looked terrified. Miss Sarah, The police, they have a warrant. For what? Sarah cried. I didn't do anything. They say, Mr. Higgins swallowed hard. They say they have proof that you poisoned Mr. Sterling. What? Sarah screamed. That's a lie. I loved him. I took care of him. They found the poison bottle, Miss Sarah, Mr. Higgins whispered, looking at the floor. It was in your bag, the bag you brought with you today. Sarah froze. She thought back to the car ride. Mr. Henderson had put her bag in the trunk. He had been alone with her bag while she went to get Timmy. He had planted it. Heavy boots stomped up the stairs. Police, open up. Sarah ran to the bedroom door to get at Timmy, but 3 police officers kicked the office door open. They had guns drawn. Get on the ground. Now. Please. My brother is in the other room. Sarah yelled, raising her hands. Don't hurt him. An officer grabbed Sarah, twisted her arms behind her back, and slapped cold metal handcuffs on her wrists. You have the right to remain silent. They dragged her out of the office, down the long hallway. Sarah was crying, screaming for Timmy. As they dragged her down the grand staircase, she saw them. Standing in the foyer, watching the show, were Jessica and Mark. They were smiling, and standing right next to them, holding a glass of expensive scotch, was Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson looked up at Sarah as she was dragged down the stairs. He didn't look scared anymore. He winked. I told you, Sarah, Henderson said smoothly, his voice calm and cold. It's a dangerous game, and you just lost. You framed me. Sarah screamed, struggling against the police. He wrote it in the book. I know what you did. What book? Jessica asked sharply. Get her out of here, Mark commanded the police officer. She's a murderer. The police shoved Sarah out the front door into the cold night air. As they pushed her into the back of a squad car, she saw a social worker carrying a crying Timmy out of the house. Sarah! Sarah! Timmy screamed, reaching for her. Timmy! Sarah yelled, kicking the door. Don't worry. I'll come back for you. But the car engine roared to life. The social worker put Timmy into a different car. Sarah watched through the barred window as the heavy gates of Sterling Manor closed. She had lost everything. Her freedom, her brother, and the legacy Arthur trusted her with. She was going to prison for a murder she didn't commit. The real villains were inside the mansion, drinking champagne. But as the police car drove away, Sarah stopped crying. The fear in her chest turned into something else. Something hot and heavy. Rage. She remembered the notebook. She hadn't brought it with her. She had dropped it on the floor of the office, kicked under the desk during the struggle. They didn't know it existed. They thought they had won. They thought Sarah was just a helpless maid who would rot in a cell. Sarah looked at her reflection in the window. Her eyes were hard. She wasn't Sarah the maid anymore. She was Sarah the billionaire, and she had one weapon left that they didn't know about. Arthur's secret book was still in the house, and Sarah knew exactly how to get back in. The prison cell was cold. It smelled like bleach and sadness. Sarah sat on the hard metal cot, staring at the gray wall. It had been 3 weeks. 3 weeks of wearing an orange jumpsuit. 3 weeks of eating terrible food. 3 weeks without Timmy. She hadn't heard from her brother. The social workers wouldn't tell her where he was. They just said he was in the system. The thought made Sarah's stomach hurt. Timmy needed his special medicine. He needed her to sing him to sleep when the thunder scared him. Mills! Lawyer! A guard shouted, banging on the bars. Sarah stood up slowly. She walked down the long hallway, her handcuffs clicking. She didn't have high hopes. Her lawyer was a public defender named Ms. Lopez. She was young, looked tired, and had 50 other cases to deal with. In the small visitation room, Ms. Lopez was shuffling through a stack of papers. She looked stressed. It's not looking good, Sarah, Ms. Lopez said, not making eye contact. The prosecutor has the bottle of poison with your fingerprints on it. Henderson testified that he saw you acting strange. Jessica and Mark are going on TV every night crying about their beloved father. The whole city hates you. I didn't do it, Sarah said, her voice raspy. I told you. They framed me. I believe you, Sarah. Ms. Lopez sighed. But belief isn't evidence. We need proof. Unless you have a magical video of them planting the bottle, you are going to prison for life. Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about the office, the big desk, the secret drawer. I have proof, Sarah whispered. Ms. Lopez stopped shuffling papers. What? Arthur kept a diary, Sarah said, leaning forward, a black notebook. He wrote everything down. He wrote that he suspected they were poisoning him. He wrote that Henderson was working with the Russians. He wrote that he was scared. Where's this notebook? Ms. Lopez asked, her eyes widening. The police searched the house. They didn't find it. They didn't look hard enough, Sarah said. It's in a false bottom in the middle drawer of his desk. You have to use a letter opener to pop the latch. I kicked it under the desk when the police grabbed me. It might still be on the floor, or maybe the cleaners put it back in the drawer. Ms. Lopez chewed her pen. Sarah, that house is a crime scene, but it's also currently occupied by Jessica and Mark. They have private security. I can't just waltz in there. You have to, Sarah pleaded, tears streaming down her face. If you don't get that book, they win. And Timmy will be alone forever. Ms. Lopez looked at Sarah's desperate face. She took a deep breath and slammed her folder shut. Okay, the trial starts tomorrow. I'll try to get a warrant to search for specific hidden evidence. It's a long shot, but it's all we have. The courtroom was packed. It felt like a circus. Cameras were flashing, reporters were shouting, and people were whispering. In the front row, wearing all black and looking like tragic heroes, sat Jessica and Mark. They held hands, wiping away fake tears with expensive handkerchiefs. Sitting next to them was Mr. Henderson, looking calm and confident in his expensive suit. Sarah was led in by two officers. She kept her head down. She looked for Ms. Lopez, but the defense table was empty. The judge banged his gavel. Order! Order in the court! The trial began. The prosecutor was a loud man with a red face. He painted Sarah as a greedy monster. She was a maid, the prosecutor shouted, pointing a finger at Sarah. A poor girl who saw a dying billionaire and saw a lottery ticket. She tricked him into changing his will, and then, when she got what she wanted, she poisoned him to speed up the process. It is a classic case of greed. Then Jessica took the stand. He was my best friend, Jessica sobbed, lying through her teeth. My father and I were so close. He told me he was afraid of Sarah. He said she was forcing him to drink strange teas. I should have done something. It's all my fault. The jury looked at Jessica with sympathy. They looked at Sarah with anger. Sarah felt like she couldn't breathe. Where was Ms. Lopez? Had she failed? Was the notebook gone? Next, Mr. Henderson took the stand. Mr. Henderson, the prosecutor asked, as Mr. Sterling's lawyer, did you ever suspect foul play? Sadly, yes, Henderson said smoothly. Arthur was not in his right mind. Sarah manipulated him. And that ridiculous request about the fishing hat? That was clearly her idea to humiliate the family. Arthur would never have wanted that. Sarah gripped the edge of the table. Liar, she thought. You dirty liar. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, the prosecutor said. The prosecution rests. The judge looked at the empty chair beside Sarah. Does the defendant have a lawyer? Or has she fled? The doors to the courtroom banged open. I'm here, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez ran down the aisle. She was out of breath. Her hair was messy, and she was holding a plastic evidence bag. In the bag was a black notebook. Sarah's heart soared. She had found it. Jessica and Mark stopped crying instantly. Their eyes locked onto the black book. Henderson sat up straight, his face losing its color. Sorry I'm late, Ms. Lopez gasped, slamming the bag on the table. I was executing an emergency search warrant at Sterling Manor. Objection! The prosecutor yelled. This is surprise evidence. This is vital evidence, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez shouted back. This is the personal diary of the victim, Arthur Sterling, and it proves that my client is innocent. The judge peered over his glasses. I will allow it. Read the relevant passages. Ms. Lopez put on gloves and carefully opened the notebook. The courtroom went deadly silent. October 15th. Ms. Lopez read aloud. My son Mark asked for money again. When I said no, he told me I wouldn't be around much longer to say no. I am scared of my own children. Mark jumped up. That's a lie. I never said that. Sit down, the judge roared. Ms. Lopez turned the page. November 2nd, I found Henderson in my office looking at the shipping logs for the Volkov deal. I told him I canceled it. He looked at me with eyes like a snake. He said, You can't cancel destiny, Arthur. I think he is poisoning my tea. It tastes bitter today. Henderson stood up, knocking his chair over. This is a fabrication. That girl wrote it. The handwriting has been verified by 3 experts in the last hour, Mr. Henderson. Ms. Lopez said coldly, but that's not all. She flipped to the very last page. There's an entry from a night he died, Ms. Lopez said. She looked directly at Sarah and smiled. November 10th. The storm is bad. Sarah is the only light in this dark house. If I died tonight, know this. I have installed a hidden camera in the eyes of the portrait across from my bed. It records the cloud. Check the server. The courtroom erupted. Jessica screamed. No! Henderson tried to run. He actually turned around and sprinted toward the exit doors. Stop him, the judge yelled. 2 bailiffs tackled Henderson before he could reach the door. He crashed to the floor, shouting curses. Silence! The judge banged his gavel so hard it almost broke. Ms. Lopez, do we have this footage? I have already sent it to the police, Your Honor, Ms. Lopez said. But I have a still image right here. She held up a large printed photo. It was grainy black and white, but clear enough. It showed Arthur lying dead in his bed. Standing over him were Jessica and Mark, laughing. And in the corner, holding a pillow over Arthur's face just to be sure, was Mr. Henderson. Sarah wasn't a murderer. Arthur had been murdered, but not by poison. He was smothered. Oh, my God, someone in the jury whispered. Jessica fainted for real this time. Mark tried to hide under the bench. The judge looked furious. Police, arrest those 3 immediately. Drop all charges against Sarah Mills. The crowd cheered. It was a roar of justice. Sarah sat in her chair and covered her face with her hands, sobbing. But this time, they were tears of relief. It was over. 2 days later, a black limousine pulled up to a foster home on the edge of a city. The driver opened the door and Sarah stepped out. She was wearing a nice, clean dress, simple but warm. She wasn't wearing the muddy coat anymore. She walked up to the front door and knocked. A woman opened it. Can I help you? I'm here for my brother, Sarah said, smiling. Sarah, a little boy came running down the hall. Timmy launched himself into Sarah's arms. She caught him, spinning him around. He felt thin, but he was safe. I knew you would come. Timmy cried. I told them. I said my sister is coming. I will always come for you, Timmy, Sarah whispered, burying her face in his neck. Always? Do we have to go back to the old apartment? Timmy asked, looking at the limousine. No, Sarah smiled. We are going home. They drove back to Sterling Manor. The police tape was gone. The staff was waiting. Mr. Higgins, the butler, was standing at the door. He looked ashamed. Miss Sarah, Higgins said, looking at his shoes. We owe you an apology. We judged you. We thought. It's okay, Mr. Higgins, Sarah said gently. You were scared. Just promise me one thing. Anything, madam. No more stiff suits, Sarah said, looking at the grand foyer. And this house is too quiet. I want music. And I want the kitchen to smell like cookies, not cleaning supplies. Higgins smiled, a real smile this time. I believe Cook is already making chocolate chip cookies, madam. Sarah and Timmy settled in. But there was one more thing Sarah had to do. The next morning, the sun was shining. It was a beautiful, crisp day. Sarah walked to the cemetery alone. She approached the massive marble grave of Arthur Sterling. It was covered in expensive flowers from people who didn't actually care about him. Sarah cleared the flowers away. She reached into her bag and pulled out the old, dirty fishing hat. She placed it gently on top of the cold stone. I did it, Arthur, she whispered. I honored your wish, and I honored the will. She sat on the grass next to the grave, just like they used to sit in the library. "You know," she said to the stone, "Henderson is going to jail for a long time. Jessica and Mark too. The company. The board wants me to sell it. They say a maid can't run a global empire." She laughed softly. "But I read your notebooks, Arthur. All of them. You wrote down every trick, every secret, every business deal. I learned more in 3 nights of reading than they learned in 4 years of business school." She stood up and brushed the grass off her dress. "I'm not selling," she said firmly. "I'm going to run it, and I'm going to run it right. No more sharks. No more fear." She turned to leave, but she stopped. She looked back at the fishing hat sitting on the grave. A gentle breeze blew, but the hat stayed in place. It looked like it belonged there. As she walked back toward the gates, her phone rang. "Hello." Sarah answered. "Miss Mills." It was a deep voice. "This is Victor Volkov." Sarah stopped walking. The man her lawyer had warned her about. The enemy. "I heard what happened to Henderson," Victor said. His voice wasn't angry. It sounded impressed. "You took down 3 sharks without even getting your hands dirty. Henderson was a problem for me, too. You did me a favor." "I didn't do it for you," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I did it for my family." Victor chuckled. It was a dark, heavy sound. "Family. That is a dangerous weakness, Miss Mills. But perhaps it is also a strength. The shipping routes are open. Let's see if you are as good at business as you are at survival." The line went dead. Sarah looked at the phone, then up at the blue sky. She wasn't afraid. She had faced poverty. She had faced prison. And she had faced the devil in a suit. She walked out of the cemetery and got into her car. "Where to, Miss Sarah?" the driver asked. "To the office," Sarah said, putting on her sunglasses. "We have work to do." She was a maid who honored a billionaire's last wish. But now she was the boss. The end. Thank you for watching this story. If Sarah's bravery inspired you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, do you think Sarah should trust Victor Volkov in the future? Yes or no? See you in the next story.